Well, it's a great pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much. For those of you that have never seen me before, let me just deal with this and get it out of the way right now. Yes, this is my real hair. If I don't tell you, somebody's going to ask. Well, welcome to the Abraham Lincoln National Historic Site. Friends, we are within a few hundred feet of a building that quite literally resonates with history. It's the place that Abraham Lincoln came with his wife Mary Todd to raise their family. Within its walls, he would learn his skills as a lawyer, sharpen his tools as a politician. In that very building, he would write the speech, "The House Divided," that would change everything for Abraham Lincoln. And it's a house he would never see again once he left Springfield. Now, like you heard, my name is Chris Vallillo. I'm a folk musician and a folklorist, and I guess I'm a bit of a historian as well. And folks, I love old songs because old songs have this power to take you to a time and place like nothing else can. And this morning, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to take you back to Abraham Lincoln's time through a concert of the music that he would have known all the way from his days on the Prairie through his time at the Presidency. Now, Lincoln loved music, and music, of course, served a variety of functions in his day as much as it does in ours. Of course, it was an entertainment. It could be a balm to soothe you in times of trouble, and frequently it was a very powerful political tool. And there's one song that harkens back to Lincoln's earliest days, one of his very favorites. It's a song he first heard when he was a young boy growing up in the Kentucky wilderness, living on the Louisville-Nashville Turnpike. Passers-by would stop and share wild tales of exaggeration of this new, rich, verdant land to the west, a place they called Illinois. Well, this song I'm about to sing for you captured many of those exaggerations in its lyrics. And if you listen to the words as I sing them here this morning, well, I think maybe you'll be able to understand how it would capture the imagination of a young boy growing up in the Kentucky wilderness. Way down upon the Wabash, such a land was never known. If Adam had crossed over it, why, this land he'd surely own. He'd say, "This is the garden he lived in when he was a boy." And he'd straightway pronounce it Eden in the state of Illinois. So move your families westward, bring all your girls and boys, and cross the Shawnee Prairie to the state of Illinois. Why, she's bounded by the Wabash, the Mississippi, and the lakes. There's milk sick in her rolling hills, and in her swamps there's snakes. But these are slight diversions that take not from all of the joys of living in this garden spot called the state of Illinois. So move your families westward, good health you will enjoy, and rise to wealth and honor in the state of Illinois. Why, it was here that the Queen of Sheba came with Solomon of old, with wagon loads of spices, pomegranates, and fine gold. But when she saw this lovely land, why, her heart was filled with such joy. Straightway said she, "I'd like to be the Queen of Illinois." So move your families westward, bring all your girls and boys, success and move your families westward, and good health you will enjoy, and rise to wealth and honor in the state of Illinois. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, while Lincoln was never much of a singer himself, he loved music of all kinds. Matter of fact, he loved anything from the old folk songs to the minstrel songs, a particular favorite of Lincoln's, by the way. But he also enjoyed the tomier things, too. The opera. He went 16 times during his years as president. Now, he was the first president to bring music into the White House and make it a part of every state event. But for Lincoln, music served another purpose. It had a special way of tugging at his heartstrings and soothing him in times of trouble. And I always thought it was very ironic that the man who would so resolutely lead the nation through our most difficult trial by far was himself a deeply sentimental soul. Now, one song that reflects that side of Abraham Lincoln is an old tune you never hear anymore. It's a beautiful thing. It's a song he turned to time and time again through his life for solace. But I'll play it for you here today. It's an old tune called 20 Years Ago. I wandered to the village top. I sat beneath the tree upon the schoolyard playing ground which sheltered you and me. But none were there to greet me, Tom, and few were left to know that played with us upon the grass some 20 years ago. The river's running just as still, the willows by its side are taller than they were, dear Tom, the stream appears less wide. The grapevine's swing is ruined now, where once we played the bow and swung our sweethearts, pretty girls, just 20 years ago. The spring that bubbled 'neath the hill nearby the spreading beach, 'tis very low, 'twas once so high as we could almost reach. And kneeling down to take a drink, dear Tom, I started so to see how much that I had changed since 20 years ago. Nearby the spring upon an elm, you know I carved your name. Your sweetheart's just beneath it, Tom, and you did mine the same. Some heartless wretch had peeled the bark, was dying sure but slow, just as the one whose name was carved died 20 years ago. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, I knew the president might be in town today, but I certainly didn't expect him to show up here. Please join me in welcoming the 16th President of the United States, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln, welcome, sir.
Oh, I really didn't mean to interrupt. I heard the music.
Well, please, if your schedule permits, we'd love to have you join us. Wouldn't you folks care to hear from the president? Please, sir, come down.
Well, I have a meeting. Oh, dear. What time is it?
It's a little after 8:30, Mr. President.
Oh, my watch is an hour fast. I think I'm an hour early. I reckon I do have some time.
Well, wonderful.
Well, I really didn't mean to interrupt. But
please join us, sir.
Well, thank you. Well, it is good to see you. that song. It is one of my favorites. It just... May I say a few things?
Please, sir. Let me get this out of your way.
It so puts me in mind of my days gone by out on the grand prairies of Illinois. You know, I was only 21 when I first got to Illinois. Nobody expected me to be president then. I was just a floating piece of driftwood. I think the aggregate of all my schooling didn't amount to a single year. So, I'll tell you, I passed my first year in Illinois in Macon County. Then I got to Sangamon County, little town gone now called New Salem. Passed as sort of a clerk in a store, not quite another year, and I determined I was going to try my hand at politics. Ran for the Illinois State Legislature, and I was defeated. However, the next and 3 succeeding biennial elections, I did serve in the Illinois State Legislature. During that period, I studied law. We moved to Springfield to practice it. But nobody ever expected me to be president. I think I could say, in entire honesty and without any mock modesty, that I am probably about the humblest individual to have ever been elevated to the office of the United States presidency. Oh my, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was just a hired laborer, mauling rails, working on a flatboat. Just what might happen to any poor man's son. But you know something? In this country, you can't be so poor, but that if you will, you can acquire sufficient education, get through the world respectably. I happen temporarily to inhabit that big white house out there, but I'm a living witness that any one of your children could look to fill that place just like my own poor father's child did. I blame that there's a Trump.
Oh, you mean that jaw hurt, Mr. President?
Well, back in my circuit riding days, that's what we called them, Trumps.
Well, I'll be darned.
I used to be pretty good in that one of them things. Do you mind?
Oh, please, sir. Go right ahead.
It's been some years.
Make a little room for you, Mr. President. Ooh.
Cursed things. I wonder I got any teeth left at all.
Allow me, Mr. President. I believe this was what you were going for, sir.
That's it. That's it. Well, you know, back in the day, that's all you need is one of them things and a few good voices. Not mine, of course.
Well, now, Mr. President, I hear tell that when you were a circuit riding lawyer, you'd play on one of these trumps, as you called them, and all your fellow lawyers would get together and you folks would sing that old tune, Who's in Johnny?
Oh, my, yes. That was a wonderful one, especially since you didn't need to have a good singing voice for that. Just, there's a part where you just shouted out a long time ago and joined right in. Do you know it?
Why, I do, Mr. President.
Could you give us a little?
I'd be honored, sir.
Hey, listen, why don't you folks join us like we lawyers used to do? It's easy, just follow my lead.
All right, here we go. Now the little black bull come down the meadow. Who's in Johnny? Who's in Johnny? That little black bull come down the meadow a long time ago. Long time ago, long time ago, that little black boat come down the meadow a long time ago. Now first he stomp and then he beller, who's in Johnny, who's in Johnny? First he stomp and then he beller, long time ago, long time ago, long time ago. First he stomp and then he beller, long time ago. Yeah, he wet his horn on a white oak sapling. Who's in Johnny? Who's in Johnny? He wet his horn on a white oak sapling long time ago.
Come on.
Long time ago, long time ago. He wet his horn on a white oak sapling long time ago. He pawed the dirt in the heifers' faces. Who's in Johnny? Who's in Johnny? He pawed the dirt in the heifers' faces long time ago.
Come on.
Long time ago, long time ago. He pawed the dirt in the heifers' faces long time ago. I need a little hand clapping right about like that so we can take us on home with the old time Jew's harp. There you go, Mr. President.
Wonderful. That was wonderful. Oh, my. Them were the days. Carefree. Well, not exactly carefree. You know, truth be told, even back in them days, there were already dark clouds on the horizon. I don't think we all realized it, but it was centered primarily on the tumultuous issue of slavery. Of course, I reckon I'm naturally anti-slavery. I don't even remember a time in my life when I didn't so think and feel. But in spite of that long opposition, I had been at rest in the belief that it had been set by our fathers on the course of ultimate extinction. And so believing it, it really was a minor issue with me up until the repeal of the Missouri Compromise. Upon that event, I become convinced that either I'd been resting in a delusion or it was being placed on an entirely new basis which would ultimately make it national in this country. So believing it had become of paramount importance to me. Could I tell a
Oh, please,
story?
Mr. President. I know folks enjoy hearing you
Well,
speak.
Thinking of 20 years ago and how present it even was then. I remember back in Washington, I was once in the lower house of Congress, and I stayed at a place called the Abolition House. And I remember one evening we had just taken our dinner. In fact, Mrs. Lincoln and the boys had just left for Lexington that morning, and we were talking about events surrounding the Mexican War, I believe, which had just recently closed, when all of a sudden, 3 armed men burst into the room and seized one of the waiters. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was a slave. He'd been hired out by Mrs. Sprigg to run the place. In fact, his wife worked there. She was a maid. Together they had a boy, maybe 8, 10 years old. His name was Henry Wilson, the slave. In fact, his wife had actually worked some years before at the White House for President Harrison. Anyway, the two of them, Wilson and his wife, had been laboring for years, I believe, to make what they called a self-purchase of Henry Wilson. And they were within about $15, if I remember, short of completing the purchase when his master concluded it's best to sell him now, full price, of course, to somebody else. Of course, he intended to retain all the money, $285 or whatever they'd already paid, because as a slave, Wilson had no right to sue for breach of contract. It was shocking. We were able to save him, but it was one of the last really signal victories in Washington City back in them days, because the slave powers were growing and were about to change everything.
Now, that might be the case, Mr. President, but it was stories exactly like that one that fanned the flames of the abolitionist movement.
Oh, my, yes.
And matter of fact, there's a similar story that I bet you will remember that got turned into a song. And it was based on the true story of an escaped slave named Joseph Shelby. He travels north with the hopes of, much like the gentleman in your story, raising enough funds to purchase the freedom of the wife he's left in bondage deep in the South. Well, sadly, he dies, but it gets turned into this song, Darlin' Nellie Gray. You remember that one, sir?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Were you going to sing it?
Well, actually, Mr. President, it was next one on my list when you walked in the door.
Well.
I'd be delighted to. In that long green valley of that old Kentucky shore where I whiled many happy hours away, just sitting and a-singing by the little cabin door where lived my darling Nellie Gray. Oh, my darling Nellie Gray, they have taken you away. I'll never see my darling anymore. They've taken you to Georgia for to work your life away. Now you're gone from that old Kentucky shore. When the moon was in the heavens and the stars were shining bright, I would take my darling Nellie Gray. We'd float down the river in our little birch canoe while my banjo so sweetly I would play. One day I went to find her, but she's gone, the neighbors say, for the white man has bound her in his chain. They've taken her to Georgia for to work her life away as she toils in the cotton and the cane. Oh, my darling Nellie Gray, they have taken you away. I'll never see my darling anymore. They've taken you to Georgia for to work your life away. Now you're gone from that old Kentucky shore. Now my eyes are getting blinded and I cannot see the day. Hark, there's someone a-knocking at my door. I hear the angels calling and I see my Nellie Gray. Fare thee well to my old Kentucky shore. Now my darling Nellie Gray, up in heaven there they say, they'll never take it from me anymore. I'm coming, coming, coming while the angels clear the way. Fare thee well to my old Kentucky shore.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, isn't that a sad song? You know, can I tell another story?
Of course.
Might as well take my liberty, I reckon. It reminds me of an incident that happened again many years ago. I was making my way back home on the way to St. Louis, down on the Ohio, and there was a man on the boat who had purchased a gang of slaves, about 12 in various parts of Kentucky, and he was taking them to a farm in the South. And they had them chained 6 and 6 together, like so many fish on a trot line. And in that condition, they were being separated forever from the scenes of their childhood, their friends, their fathers, mothers, brothers and sisters, and in many cases, their wives and children. perhaps they also had that hope of heaven you alluded to in that song. Because in the midst of so distressing circumstances, or at least as we would think them, they, of all creatures on board, seemed to be the happiest and most content.
See, Mr. President, as long as you're here, I've always wanted to ask you a question. Now, I know music played a big role in the life and times that you lived, but didn't you use music a lot in your personal political careers as well?
Oh my, yes. I reckon just about all the songs and campaigns and meetings, we had music during the debates with Douglas. He had a wonderful brass band, and I had to make my own music. I used a little. I did. I used a little harmonica. But well, no, actually, now I think at all the meetings in my first campaign, we had the Hutchison family singers. Oh, they were wonderful, staunch abolitionists. In fact, I used to tell people, oh, I realize all the crowds will come to hear the Hutchisons, but maybe afterwards some of you will stick around and hear what that tall, lanky fella has to say, too. And they did. Oh, they were wonderful. They even wrote a book. It was entitled The Republican Songster. We sang a good deal out of that. But not only that, we had other songs like the National Convention at Chicago. They sang Old Abe Lincoln Came Out the Wilderness. They hollered it out. And just like my boys did on the front porch over and over at home.
You know, Mr. Lincoln, I've learned some of the songs from that Republican songster. Let me see if you remember this one, sir. For Lincoln, the choice of the nation, the pride of the fearless and the free. He'll sink to his health and his station, whatever that relation may be. His heart beats for freedom remaining on the shores where our liberty grew, for our brethren in slavery sustaining the free flag, the red, white, and blue. Remember that one, sir?
Yes, I do. I always thought that one was just a bit pompous for my taste. But, catchy tune, no. Catchy tune.
All right. How about this one? Come, friends of the Union, and take it to your stand, determined not to falter till we've whipped the rebel band. Our Union flag we're raising for Lincoln tried and true, who'll uphold it and revere it. 'Tis the red, white, and blue. So shout aloud for Lincoln, shout aloud for Lincoln, shout aloud for Lincoln and the red, white, and blue. Help me here. Shout aloud for Lincoln, shout aloud for Lincoln, shout aloud for Lincoln and the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I'll remember that one. They wrote that to the melody of Wait for the Wagon, which was pretty popular. And that was a good ploy. See, if you wrote the words to a tune everybody knew, they could all take part. So.
You know, that brings to mind another song from the Republican songster written the exact same way. Only on this song, they used the melody from that old Irish folk tune, Rosin the Bow, and added new words. It's that old song, Lincoln and Liberty.
Oh, my goodness, yes. They sang that in the Illinois State Capitol the night I was elected for the presidency. And I always thought that song actually helped make it possible.
Well, let me give you a little of that one, sir.
Thank you.
Hurrah for the choice of the nation, our chieftain so brave and so true. We'll go for the great Reformation, for Lincoln and liberty too. We'll go for the son of Kentucky, the hero of Hoosierdom come through. The pride of the suckers so lucky for Lincoln and liberty too. Our good David's sling is unerring, the slavocrat's giant he slew. And shout for the freedom preferring, for Lincoln and liberty too. They'll know what by felling and mauling our railmaker statesmen can do. For the people are everywhere calling for Lincoln and liberty too. Then up with the banner so glorious, the star-spangled red, white, and blue. We'll fight till the cause is victorious for Lincoln and liberty too. Then up with the banner so glorious, the star-spangled red, white, and blue. We'll fight till the cause is victorious for Lincoln and liberty too.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, no sooner had that election been accomplished when the South decided to secede.
Yes, indeed.
And that attempt at secession changed the central idea before the country from the spread of slavery to disunion. And my friends, this question, the whole notion, the idea of secession is the essence of anarchy. And the issue embraced more than just the fate of these United States. It embraces more than this present generation. It presents to the whole great family of man the question, can a constitutional republic, a government of the people, by the people, a democracy, if you will, maintain its own territorial integrity against domestic foes? If we as a people enjoy the benefits of such a government, how are we to deal with those who wish to use those liberties to put an end to that government? Is there in liberty an element which must necessarily devolve into anarchy? Friends, we must think about whether a few discontented individuals who have not sufficient numbers to influence an election or policy of an administration may, upon pretense or without any pretense at all, break up that government, then, my friends, the very idea of free government is extinguished from the earth. And so with these things in mind, the executive was forced to take up the sword of war. It could but perform that duty or surrender the very existence of the government. Blaine, that's pretty.
Oh, why, thank you, Mr. President.
That's battle cry freedom, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is, sir. You've got a good ear. Matter of fact, it was written right here in Illinois by George F. Root. And I have heard tell, Mr. President, it was written in direct response to that speech you gave on July the 2nd in 1862.
Oh, if that one caused quite a stir. That's the first time I ever asked this country for 300,000 volunteers. Root. Yes. He was on our side, though, fortunately.
Yes, he was.
A good writer. I loved some of his songs. There was one, another one that touched me deeply. I don't recall now. It was something about an empty seat, an empty.
Do you mean the vacant chair, sir?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yes.
See if this is what you're thinking of. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We shall linger to caress him as we breathe our evening prayer. When a year ago we parted, joy was in his mild blue eyes. Now a golden cord is severed, and our hopes in ruins lie. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him as we breathe our evening prayer. By the fireside, sad and lonely, often will the bosom swell in remembrance of the story, how our noble Willie fell. He strived to save our banner in the thickest of the fight, and uphold our country's honor with the strength of manhood's might. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him as we breathe our evening prayer. True, they tell us, wreaths of glory evermore will dark his brow, but that soothes the anguish only, sweeping o'er our heartstrings now. Sleep today, O early fallen, in thy green and narrow bed. Dirges of the pine and cypress mingle with the tears we've shed. We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We will linger to caress him as we breathe our evening prayer. We shall linger to caress him as we breathe our evening prayer.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, so many vacant chairs now. so much promise of usefulness to one's country, of bright hope for oneself and one's friends, have seldom been so suddenly dashed. War, at its best, is terrible, but this war of ours, both for its magnitude and duration, is one of the most terrible. It has deranged business totally in some localities, partially in all localities. It has destroyed property, ruined homes. It has brought unprecedented taxation and indebtedness such as we have never before witnessed in this country. It has brought sorrow to nearly every home until it could literally be said that the heavens are hung in black. And yet it continues. You know, whenever I happen to say a few words to soldiers, I try to impress upon them in as few words as possible the importance of success in this contest. It's not merely for today, my friends. It's for all time to come, for our children's children, that we should perpetuate this great and free government which we've enjoyed all of our lives. I beg of you to remember this, not merely for my sake, but for yours, so that each one of you may have an open field and a good chance for your industry, your enterprise, your intelligence, that each one of us may have a fair chance, an equal start in the race of life. It is for this that the struggle should be maintained, that we may not lose our birthright. This nation is worth fighting for, to preserve so inestimable a jewel. Well, this talk is starting to make me feel sad. I noticed that you had one of them banjos. I'll tell you, if I were in Washington at a moment like this, I'd probably get my old friend from Danville, Ward Hill Layman, to pick up one of them, and they can brighten the tone in a moment. You know, my son Robert, when he was at Exeter Academy, he had a roommate that played one of them, and I visited them on. Oh, he could play. I said to Bob, I thought he ought to learn it. He wasn't interested.
Well, you know, Mr. Lincoln, this banjo can make a joyful sound. Hey, I got a song I bet you're going to recognize.
I was just going to ask you to play it.
Let's see here. Well, way down south where I was born, I worked all day in the fields of corn. Aha! When the sun shone hot, them fellas roast, but when they dance, they sweat the most. Whoa! Now the Picayune butler's coming, Picayune butler's coming to town. Picayune butler's coming, Picayune butler's coming to town. Aha! Oh ho! Aha! Now of all them gals I ever did see, Miss Lucy Neal was best to me. Whoa! She chased the bull quite out of breath, and that's what chills Miss Lucy's death. Aha! Now the Picayune butler's coming, Picayune butler's coming to town. Picayune butler's coming, Picayune butler's coming to town. Aha! Oh ho! Aha! Well, now here I am a-gwine to sing, gwine to make this banjo ring. Aha! This song I know please you to death, and laugh you nearly out of breath. Whoa ho! Now the Picayune Butler's coming, coming, Picayune Butler's coming to town. Picayune Butler's coming, coming, Picayune Butler's coming to town. Uh-huh, oh ho, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Remember that one, Mr. President?
Oh, yeah. You, my friend, you've been reading too many Democrat newspapers.
Well, yes, indeed. You got me there, Mr. President. I do believe this is the song that got you into a little bit of trouble there at Antietam.
Yes, it certainly did. That song was oh, God, what a stir. All the newspapers had a field day over that. The New York World published a particularly nasty cartoon showing me standing out in the field surrounded by wounded and dying soldiers calling for a comic song. Lies, nothing but lies.
Now, and truth be told, Mr. President, the way I heard tell, this happened several weeks after the battle at Antietam, and you weren't anywhere even near the battlefield at the time. You were on your way to inspect General Porter's troops.
That's so.
And as you did from time to time, you asked Ward to play a little song to sort of lighten your mood.
Yes. Well, see, I was just about ready to relieve McClellan of the general command. No small task in itself. And this was on the heels of making public our intention to write a proclamation of emancipation. The weight on me at that juncture was terrible. I had actually asked Layman not to sing that, but that little sad song that
20 years ago.
Yes, that when I first overheard it and interrupted all of this. Oh, but now he did sing a few lighter songs afterwards, but it's someone else's request, not mine. But yes, things did get a little hot over that. But you know, most often, music is a panacea to me. Well, case in point, at the dedicatory ceremonies at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, I stayed in the home of a gentleman named Mr. Wills, and I was upstairs in the room he provided and just going over my notes for my remarks the next day, and wasn't feeling well. I concluded to step out on the balcony of my room to get some air. There were soldiers down below who saw me, and just spontaneously they started singing, "We are coming, Father Abraham." You have no idea how much good that did me. Things like that just brightened our days.
We are coming, Father Abram, 600,000 more, from Mississippi's winding streams and from New England's shores. We leave our plows and workshops, our wives and children dear, with hearts too full for utterance, but with a single tear. We dare not look behind us, but steadfastly before. We are coming, Father Abram, 600,000 more. We are coming, coming, our union to restore. We are coming, Father Abram, 600,000 more. If you look across our hilltops and meet the northern skies, long moving lines of rising dust your vision may descry. And now the wind an instant tears a cloudy veil aside, and floats aloft our spangled flag in glory and in pride. And banners in the sunlight gleam and bands brave music pour. We are coming, Father Abram, 600,000 more. We are coming, coming, our union to restore. We are coming, Father Abram, 600,000 more.
It is so wonderful that things finally began to turn at Gettysburg. After Gettysburg and Vicksburg, things began to change, fortunately. But you know, when this war first broke out, my friends, my duty did not admit of a question. It was first and continues to be now to preserve this union. I had taken an oath, registered in heaven, to preserve the Constitution to the best of my ability. I could not even begin to suppose that I had attempted to perform such a duty if, in order to save some secondary question such as habeas corpus, or to save or destroy slavery, I had allowed the destruction of the very government of which the Constitution is the organic law. And so my paramount object has been and remains to restore this union. Now, of course, the moment came when I saw that slavery must die or the Union would not live. And I realized that many of my strongest supporters had urged emancipation upon me long before I had concluded it had now become an indispensable necessity. And may I say also, long before I think the country was ready for it. Frankly, I'm convinced that if the proclamation had been issued even 6 months prior to when it was, public opinion would not have sustained it. So Gettysburg was, yes, the first victory after the proclamation finally went into effect 2 years ago now. But even now, there remain those adamantly opposed to it. But my friends, it is the only position upon which this or any other administration can save this union. Any policy with regard to the black man that goes contrary to emancipation deprives us of his necessary help. And my friends, that is more than we can bear. We cannot spare the 140 or 50,000 black troops that are now serving as soldiers and seamen and laborers. And this is not a question of my personal taste or persuasion. It's a question of numbers, of military might and power, which can be measured and estimated just such as horsepower or steam power can be measured or estimated. You retain that power and you save this union. Throw it away and the union goes with it. No administration can retain the needed services of these people upon the express or even implied understanding that upon the first convenient opportunity they are to be re-enslaved. My friends, it cannot be. My friends, it ought not to be. The last day of the month just concluded, the 31st day of January, 1865. Congress has finally passed an amendment to the United States Constitution abolishing slavery in all of the states. What remains now for us, my friends, is to see it ratified in at least 27 of the 36 state legislatures. I appeal to you to do everything possible to ensure that that will happen in your respective state legislatures. We must not lose this opportunity.
you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, it has been a tremendous honor to have you here with us today. I can't tell you how much, I know everyone has enjoyed it. I know your schedule is tight, sir, and I know we don't want to keep you from your duties.
Well, I do need to go. There is though one final request.
Well,
I'd
of
like
course,
to make
Mr.
of you.
President.
You know, I've always thought Dixie was one of the finest tunes I've ever heard.
Ah.
Now, our adversaries over the way have concluded to capture it, but I insist that we have now fairly taken it back. In fact, I presented this opinion to the Attorney General. He gave me his legal advice. It is now our lawful price. So I'm wondering if you could favor me with its performance.
It would be a pleasure, Mr. President. And in your honor, sir, I'll play it for you the way you first heard it up in Chicago in 1860, before the Southerners got rid of all those extra verses. Matter of fact, why don't you folks help us on this song, all right? It's a great song for joining in. We'll serenade the president on this one. All you got to do is jump on that turnaround. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And it's got maybe the best chorus I've ever heard anywhere. Oh, I wish I was in Dixie, away, away. In Dixieland, I'll take my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Excellent. So, Mr. President, we will honor you with this version, the old original version of Dixie's Land. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. That would have been your part right there. In Dixieland, where I was born, early on a frosty morning. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Oh, I wish I was in Dixie, away, away. In Dixieland, I'll take my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Now that's the part that the Southerners have been singing, and most folks still know that part of the song. But some of you folks might not know these other verses. Old Mrs. married Will the Weaver. Will, he was the gay deceiver. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. There you go. And when he put his arms around her, he smiled fierce like a 40-pounder. Look away, look away, look away. Help us out in the chorus now. Oh, I wish I was in Dixie, away, away. In Dixieland, I'll take my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Ah, but there's one more. Now his face was sharp as a butcher's cleaver, but that would not seem to grieve her. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Old Mrs. played the foolish part to die for the man that broke her heart. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Here we go. Oh, I wish I was in Dixie, away, away. In Dixieland, I'll take my stand to live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Thank you so much, friends. I have just been told that the president has to make a short stop, but he will be able to visit with folks out in the lobby in about a minute. So if you want to have a moment to meet the president and perhaps have a photograph taken of him with yourself, he will be available for that. I will also mention that the music that we put into this program, a large portion of it is available on a recording in the gift shop called Abraham Lincoln in Song. And I want to thank the Abraham Lincoln National Historic Site for allowing us to share this wonderful day with you here today. And I know there's much more to come.